Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to show you the top 10 greatest Ark Tames. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. I know it's barely been out for any time at all, but I wanted to put the Gigantoraptor in at number 10 as I'm really impressed with this creature. I love its model design. It's actually a little bit smaller than I originally thought, and it isn't too difficult to tame, and its tame method is very inventive as well, requiring a sort of mini game where you do the move it gives back to you. And these things are just full of abilities once tamed. They're insane gliders, just generally great creatures anyway. They can carry eggs in their saddles, and I'm pretty sure creatures as well, kind of like the Maywing, and you can pluck their feather every 24 hours to kind of do what the Oviraptor does, but a lot better, and they deal a wealth of damage. They really are truly great creatures, and they might be in the future like the most amazing creatures. Just obviously they haven't been out for that long, but I felt I had to put them here. Next up, we have got the Raasclark, and this creature is here just simply because it really does do a lot of new things, and it's still nothing. There is still nothing like this creature to this day, even though the Gigantoraptor came out, and that's a really successful creature. Obviously this thing's been out for longer, we've used it more, we really know how it works as a greatest Ark creature, and this really definitely is one of those. And although yes, my perspectives on this creature aren't the best, just considering how I think it's a little too OP, I still find it is an extremely useful creature, and I get a lot of use out of it, namely with its ability to pick up things like Rexes and Parasauritheriums, especially in ASA at the moment, considering that obviously there is no sort of cryopods and things like that, which, you know, obviously we're probably not going to get until Extinction comes out, which is absolutely ages, or you know, we'll get at just some point in the future. Obviously there are mods that you can use to carry creatures around with, but I'm trying to play it a little bit more vanilla at the moment. I do have the Dino Tracker on though, because that mod is really useful. It's like Creature Finder Deluxe, but now just into ASA. The tame method for the Raasclark is also largely quite inventive, not as inventive as the Gigantoraptor, as nothing's really been like that before it to an extent, whereas this is pretty much just the tame for the Reaper. It's like the exact same tame method, it just impregnates your dino instead of you, and you have to use the pheromones on your creature to get it to actually impregnate that. You don't really need to do that for the Reaper, but obviously Reaper pheromones are there, but that's to stop the baby from killing you. They won't do this with the Raasclark. And then instead of using XP to get 100% effectiveness, there is kind of cravings timer where you'll feed it those resources which were on screen earlier, but I don't think that's too necessary, because 100% effectiveness on this thing just takes so much effort, and it doesn't provide so much better of an experience of having this creature, so I really wouldn't do that in general. But if you want, then you can, but I would just recommend get the highest level one that you can and tame it at whatever effectiveness it wants to tame at. And if you do have those resources at the time, then you might as well go for it. If you don't, then don't really bother, it's not all too necessary. Next up, we have got the Reaper, and this creature is just the king of arboration, and nothing really does beat this creature when it comes to how well it's suited to its map, and just how much of an influence it was for future Ark creatures to come, as that taming method was something like we had never ever seen before, and considering this was 2017 Ark, that is still just like, that's insane that this creature came out. It seems like such an up-to-date new creature by its features and all of that. And maybe, yes, it isn't as feature dense as some of the newer creatures that only has its main attack and obviously that tail ability in the fact that it can go underground as well. But still, it's so well designed, its animations are clean, it looks amazing, and its tame method is inventive, very inventive for the time actually. As this thing, you would get impregnated by it, you find a Reaper Queen, knock it down until it glows. I think it's a reddish purpley glow, or I think below 1000 health, and then it will impregnate you, and then you gather loads of XP, and out will come that Reaper baby, and you'll use those Reaper pheromones to stop that baby from killing you. But it probably still will a couple of times. And on Gen 2 you can do these things like absolute cake as well, so if you really want to get yourself a Reaper easily and you have Gen 2, then watch Raasclark's tutorial on how to tame Reapers on Gen 2. It is absurdly easy. Next up, we have got the Maywing, and this creature is here just because it really is like the peak of travel mounts for me in a way. It is just so speedy, so useful, and you can just gather so much agility with this creature, and you can really get some insane speed on no matter what map you're on. You can really just dash through everything, and it doesn't matter too much about the elevation of what map you're on. You can still glide around with absolute ease. It only really becomes difficult if you want to go up in elevation, but you won't really be doing that too much, and they are very quick on the land as well, and they can jump up, so it's not very difficult to traverse things like mountains, especially on the islands, considering they're really not that big when you compare them to other maps where there are a lot bigger things. Crystal Isles is a good example there. Maybe some of those higher islands are not things which you will be reaching on the Maywing, but it depends. But you'll probably be able to get up there with just a little bit of hard work and effort. Also, these things do act as a portable feeding trough as well, which is really nice, especially for you breeders out there. You get a Gigantoraptor and you get yourself a Maywing, you've got yourself a really perfect combination. And also, they can gather berries as well, which is a nice, neat side ability. They can also glide along top of water as well, and they're pretty good swimmers. Next up, we have got the Shadowmane, and this creature is here just because it is so densely packed with abilities, and it really does need to be here for all of those insane abilities on which it wields. It is an extremely fast mount, capable of so much, and it also has tons of ability as well. It can jump to great heights, and really it can do this at great speed as well. Also, on top of that, these things do have the pack buff, which definitely does aid them in all kinds of combat scenarios. They can also go invisible as well, although you need a mate boosted pair, or at least one of them, one gender of the side of the Shadowmane. I can't really remember because I don't use that ability all too much, but they really do aid themselves with the hydration buff, which only it, the Spino, and as far as I understand the Crystal Wyvern has, and this just makes it deal even more damage under the water. Especially great because it is a hugely amazing underwater swimmer. Its only real downside being its tail method, which is blasphemous at best, but you know, we'll accept it just considering how great this creature truly is. In at number 5, we have got the Baryonyx, and this creature is here just because it is such a great caving creature, and it has been such a great caving creature for so long, it needs to be put in the Greatest Ark Creatures. It's just a favorite of mine, and I love using it in all ways. I just like using it as a general travel creature. I like using it just for defeating creatures around the map, and obviously I love using it for caving, and it is a very good underwater exploration creature, underwater caving creature as well, especially just for exploring those underwater caves that aren't artifact caves, just the normal underwater caves which you'll find on maps like the island, and I think the center probably has them as well. You know what they are, and yeah, they really are great at that, especially considering they do have a special attack as well, where they can stun creatures up to the size of a megalodon when in water. You can't do this on land, but you know, it's not 2015 anymore. Hopefully the land sharks aren't around, but you know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. You know, Ark's still largely quite a buggy game, and I'm sure ASA has its whole manner of land sharks out there, but obviously you won't be able to stun them because you're not in the water. Either way, very nice creature, has a very decent amount of health, great damage, great stamina, great mobility, great abilities, and great uses. It's a must-have for me. Next up, we have got the Bloodstalker in at the number 4 spot, and this creature is just so great and so useful for me. So let's start with its tail methods. Maybe not the best in the world, requiring to feed it blood bags, and also some smaller tames of yours. The Moss Chops is the preferred one for me to get up to 100% effectiveness. Spawns in the bog biome on Genesis 1, and it's also on Gen 2 as well. And this creature just is so great and so mobile once you've got it, especially in the water, which is what I mainly use it for, and it's like the only real travel mount to have on Gen 1. So it's a whole map where this is really one of your only options, at least native to the map. You can obviously bring some other creatures over like Maywings and Rock Drakes, but obviously flyers are banned on Gen 1 as well as on Arboration, so gliders and things like the Bloodstalker and all manner of other travel creatures that use some different methods really are going to aid you there. But also just across any map really, the Bloodstalker is capable of getting around with immense speed. It also tells you the aggros of all the creatures around you, so it is really easy to get away from danger even before the danger is there, as you can simply see if that creature's aggroed onto you, because sometimes it might not even look it, and then without really guessing or trying, they will just run at you, and you can end up in some pretty sticky situations. They're also great for gathering hexagons on Gen 1 as well, as you know, there's a lot of bog racing missions to use the Bloodstalker. If you've done the alpha one, then you've qualified as a good Bloodstalker flyer, by the way. That's the rule that I've made. Either way, fabulous creature. In at number 3, we have got the Desmodus, and this creature is here for its Sanguine Elixir and just what it has done to shape the Ark game. It is an extremely useful PvE and PvP mount. For PvE, obviously, it has the Sanguine Elixir, 30% of the tame done like that. It's a blood bag farm, and it can really get you around the map with some speed with that gliding ability. It can also grapple onto all manner of objects, vertical, horizontal, whatever you want, really. And on top of that, for PvP use, these things can pick people off riders like no problem whatsoever. Absolutely OP for any kind of PvP madness that you want to get into. Is if someone's flying around or something like a Pteranodon and RG, this creature's got some serious speed on it, and you can just pick them off and dispose of them as you will. And I've definitely been the victim of a few Desmodus pickings, but I've also been the subject of some few Desmodus pickings as well, and it really is a great way of just getting that PvP in, and it's not actually the hardest thing to do considering just how largely OP this creature is as a flyer, and it definitely is a must-have for me. In at number 2, we have got the Argentavis, and this creature will always pretty much be at the top of these lists in my opinion, just because the RG is so versatile, so useful, and it's been like that ever since the game came out, and this was in it, obviously with a considerably worse model, but still, since that TLC, this creature has become even better with a new model and a new slew of abilities. Now, it does have a smithy as a saddle, which really does benefit it, especially just considering what it does. Like, it's essentially like the best metal gatherer in the game in a way. Obviously, it doesn't gather metal, you use it with an Anki, and then from that, you can get yourself loads of metal, crystal and obsidian, and it has tons of weight reduction, so it's a great metal transporter, resource transporter, and you can pick up a very high range of creatures as well, which you might not expect with a creature of this size. And really, it just is extremely useful as a general travel mount as well, especially with the smithy as its saddle, which you can repair any of your armor or metal tools as long as you have some smelted metal ingots in its inventory. And they do put up quite a fight as well, having quite a lot of melee and a very decent health stat, and also some decent stamina to keep them fighting for long, which obviously does actually make them really great flyers as well. They can fly for long distances, and although they're not as fast as a Pteranodon, they don't need to be. They have a different use case, and also they do have a nice neat little regen buff as well. If you eat something, obviously you don't have to kill it, but if you kill something and then eat it, then you get a nice regen buff, and you often see RGs in the wild doing this. And in at number 1, we have got the Deinonychus, and this creature is here just because it is my all-time favourite, and nothing really does replace this on the Greatest Ark Creatures list. So let's just start with the basics and what you'll probably see and notice first. It is an extremely mobile creature that also takes no fall damage, and on top of that, it deals hefty amounts of bleed damage and can grapple onto large creatures and even deal bleed damage to bosses, which, as far as I'm concerned, no other Ark creature can. It also has a very reasonable health stat, especially for its size, some nice stamina, some nice weight, and obviously a lot of damage. You can melt through bosses so quickly, and this especially does help considering it has the pack buff on top of this as well, and obviously that pack buff is just going to buff you even more. Obviously the name does suggest it, and you're just going to get those bosses done even faster, and who really doesn't want a Deinonychus army? Also, these creatures are very easy to tame, maybe not your very simple knockout tame and it's over and done with. You steal their eggs from a nest, So sorry if you get the bug where they don't spawn, because you're missing out really. These are just such great creatures. Then from that you can just raise them with a couple of torches, obviously incubate them and then raise them, and it's not too bad. As long as your rates aren't on official, then they shouldn't take the longest amount of time to raise, and then you've got yourself some Deinonychuses and a Deinonychus army. And also they can kind of parkour around the map as well, so they can climb any kind of wall, vertical surface, which again does very much aid them in just traveling around the map. They really are great all-rounder, a must-have greatest Ark creature for me. But anyway, that is the end of today's video, and I really hope that you all enjoyed, as I definitely did enjoy making it. As always, comment down below what is the greatest Ark creature to you, and if you didn't agree with this list, put your 10 greatest Ark Tames in the comments below. And with that, I'll see you all later.